This is for March 31st, Tuesday, worksheet 18.2c. We finally made it to the cosine. Yeah, the tangent, sine, and then cosine. So those are the three functions that we'll be working with. So last one, cosine. So cosine by definition or by formula is cosine of, you must have an angle. Cosine of the angle is adjacent side over hypotenuse side. Okay, so it's on top of the worksheet. I know it's in a weird form, but that's what it is. Just cosine function of the angle is adjacent side on top and fraction by hypotenuse in the bottom. Okay, so we need to find the cosine of angle C, which is adjacent over hypotenuse. Just a fraction, leave it in fraction form as it says. So if you look for the C, that's on the left side. So if you walk across the triangle, you're gonna get 18, and 18 must be the opposite side. Okay, so you always have to find the opposite side first. Is easiest if you have the angle. So once you have the opposite side, now we walk across the 90 degree. When all three numbers are given, it's the largest number, but in the other questions, there's going to be an x, so you don't know which one's the largest. So just remember, across from the 90 degree is your hypotenuse, and then one that's left over, yeah, there's only one number left over, 24. So it's between the 90 degree and the angle that you're starting with, but it's just a leftover side. So 24 is the adjacent side. So we just put that into the fraction. So 24. Oh yeah, so we're not using the opposite side at all. Okay, that's for sines and tangents. For cosine, we only use the adjacent and hypotenuse. So adjacent side is 24. We put it in the top of the fraction. Then hypotenuse goes in the denominator, bottom of the fraction. So 30. Okay, so 24 over 30 would be the answer for half credit. But if you want full credit, you gotta look for a number that reduces it. This time it's a 6. You could divide it by 2 first and then divide by 3 later, or just divide it by 6 all together, and the answer is 4 over 5. That's all you have to do. And number 3, triangle is in a weird position, but it's the same way. So you start with the angle x, and from the x, which is a dot, okay, you walk across inside a triangle, and the opposite side is 24. And once you have 24, you have two more numbers. 24 is the opposite side, and we're not going to use opposite side for the cosine function. So walk across from 90, and you're going to get 40. 40 is the hypotenuse. And then the leftover side, so we're not using 24, we use 40, so 32, the leftover one must be the adjacent side. So you put it into a fraction form, 32 on top, adjacent over hypotenuse, 40. And you divide it by, reduce it by 8. And you get the answer 4 over 5. Okay, again, you could divide it by 2 first, and then divide it by 4, or divide it by 2 again, and divide by 2 again. But eventually, you're going to get 4 over 5. Okay. And one way to also tell what number you could divide it by, if you subtract 40 minus 32, you're going to get 8. And 8 is the biggest number that you could divide it by. The difference between the numerator and denominator is it cannot be, the GCF cannot be bigger than the difference of those two. Okay. You don't really need it, but just in case that you are looking for GCF and you're trying something like 20 or something, it's not gonna work. Okay. So next, this is just a review. Yeah, it's just calculator work. So if you're looking for x, just get rid of a fraction. So get rid of 19 by multiplying by 19. Anytime you have a fraction, just times it by the denominator. And you get 19 gets canceled out on one side. So on the other side, 19 times cosine of 57. And you have the x all by itself. That's when you use a calculator. And you get 10.35. Again, round it to 35 cents, not 34. Okay, and in the hundredths place. So two numbers after decimal point. Number 7. So this time x is in the bottom. So it doesn't matter. Anytime you have a fraction, multiply by whatever is in the denominator. Okay. If you do that, you end up with x times cosine of 57. So you're solving for x. So you have to do one more step of getting rid of cosine of 57. So that goes under, you're dividing by cosine of 57. Okay. And then you put that in a calculator and you get, again, round it up, 34.89, not 88. Should be a review, pretty simple. Okay, and then the backside, now we are gonna find the value of x, and we're gonna start using cosine only. So later on, we'll be mixing them up with sines and cosines and tangents all in one worksheet, but for now, on this one, it's just the cosine. So it's always going to be cosine of the angle, is always adjacent, always hypotenuse, for this worksheet anyway. So which one is an angle? There are 3 numbers. There's x, there's a 15, and there's 20. Which one is an angle? The one with the little degree symbol, right? Some people are still saying inside a triangle, but doesn't have to be inside. So it's the one with the little degree symbol. So 15 degrees, 15 is the angle. Okay. So once you use 15 for your angle, now you have 2 more things left, x and 20. Which one's adjacent, which one's hypotenuse? So for that, you use the trick that we already know. So start from the angle, 15 degrees. It's a dot, 15 is on the left side. So 15 is a angle that starts from the dot, and then across from it is the opposite side. Okay, see how on the opposite side there is nothing there, so we don't have any numbers or anything on the opposite side. So basically we're not going to use the opposite side because we don't have anything there, which is good for cosine. If you did have some number there, then you'll be using sines or tangents. For cosines, we don't use the opposite side. We use the x and 20. So which one's an adjacent? Well, x is hypotenuse. How do you know? It's across from the 90 degrees. Okay, so x is hypotenuse, which means 20 must be my adjacent. 20 on the top of the fraction. Okay, that it matters. If you put 20 in the bottom, it's not going to give you the right answer. So 20 goes on top of the fraction, and then the hypotenuse x goes on underneath. So once you have that equation, now just what you did with solving for x. Okay, so we're trying first, you always get rid of fraction first, so you don't want that x in the bottom, or you don't want that fraction at all, so times by x. Okay, so times by x will get rid of fraction. We'll just get 20 on one side. And then on the other side, you have x times cosine of 15. So you want the x by itself. So divide or get rid of cosine 15 by dividing. So x by itself is 20 divided by cosine of 15. So calculator will give you this number. Okay. Another one, how about, well, there's a 57 degrees. Okay, across from it is the opposite side, and I don't have anything on the opposite side, so we're not going to use the opposite side. So you have 2 more numbers, 14 and x. So 14 will be my hypotenuse across from the 90, and x must be my adjacent side. Okay, so adjacent and hypotenuse, you need to memorize that that's the cosine, not sine. Sine is the opposite of hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. You gotta know those soon. So cosine is what you'll use, and cosine always needs an angle to go with. When you type this into calculator, just cosine is not gonna do anything. It's like typing in plus. Okay, well, you need a number with it. So cosine is a number, and it's always with the degree, 57 degrees. Never cosine of 14 or cosine of, well, the length. Okay, so always the angle, cosine of the angle, is adjacent side on top. Adjacent is, in this case, is x. And then hypotenuse, largest side. Well, we don't know whether it's largest side because you're comparing with an x, but hypotenuse is 14. So this is where you don't have three numbers, and if you have all three numbers, then you could say largest number is hypotenuse, but we only got one number, 14. So we don't know whether 14 is the biggest, or maybe x is the biggest, or the unknown, the missing side is biggest. So in this case, you need to use the 90 degree to find the hypotenuse. So after that, it's just algebra. So get rid of fraction, times by 14. So fraction's gone. But oh, well, that's it. There's an x by itself. So I thought we were gonna divide by cosine of 57, but no, we have the x by itself. So just multiply 14 times cosine of 57 the calculator, and you get 7.62. Okay, so it should be same as all the other worksheets, just a new function now, new button to press on the calculator is the cosine. And cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, not the opposite side. That's it. Okay.